Rochelle, how are you? Is Larry with you?
He's finishing up dinner.
All right, tell him to make sure the challah comes out good this week.
He's working
Dinner before Shabbat?
I have to tell you though, Hashem has a very odd sense of humor
Yeah.
because they just started up morning minyanim this morning, and now they had to cancel them for Shabbos because of the storm. Our Erev is down.
Oh my goodness. So why do they have to cancel?
Because they were planning it to people to bring their own chairs and to be in the parking lot.
They're doing it outside. Okay,
Yeah,
got
doing
it.
it
Yeah.
outside still.
All right.
They made all these plans. They started it this morning, and now they're going to try for tomorrow night, Mariv. So,
Yeah. As we say in Yiddish, Amen
Tracht of Gott lacht. I've been
You
saying
got
it
it.
all day.
and God laughs all the way to the bank. But no, actually, I don't think God laughs at us.
Whose
He's
bank
given
account?
us good reason to.
Yeah, yes. It's all with great purpose and meaning.
Amen.
All right, everyone, we're still climbing a little bit in numbers. We'll give it one more minute and then we'll get started. In the meantime, we can say l'chaim to anyone who has something to drink. Chaim, everyone.
Hi.
So,
Hey, Ted.
this is before we first l'chaim.
Chaim.
This l'chaim.
We are starting. The shul is open this Shabbos, although with great restrictions and without encouraging, and also certainly discouraging many people from coming. But it's a good first step, and so we hope that our doors will be able to be wide open very soon, and no one will have any reason to have concern. Hopefully, with God's blessings, so we won't have any threats to our health.
Vodka.
Okay. Reuven Gershon, that looks good. I like it.
Thank you, Rabbi.
But you need a new bottle now.
Yeah. Done.
Okay. All right, everyone, we're going to get started.
Chaim.
There we go. Okay, we got the l'chaim in. L'chaim, everyone. So, this Shabbos is the portion of Naso, Parshas Naso, which we studied for 2 weeks, because last week we studied it every day, and then Shabbos came and it was Shavuos, so we read the Shavuos Torah reading. So we studied it again this week, and then we read it, in fact, this Shabbos. There was a gentleman who he wasn't blessed with children. So what do? You go to doctors, of course, because God sends his blessing through doctors. And you also go to holy people to get a blessing. So he visited a Kabbalist to get a blessing from a Kabbalist. Very nice. And this Kabbalist was he got the whole thing down. So the man comes in and he says he would like to ask for a blessing for children. So the Kabbalist lights some candles, he dims the lights, he closes his eyes and goes into deep meditation. He asks the man for his name and his mother's name. And he thinks and he says, I can bless you to have children. I see in heaven that what's blocking the channel of blessing for you to have children is $1,800 for tzedakah. If you give me $1,800 for tzedakah, I'm dedicating this joke to John Singer. If you send $1,800 to tzedakah, if you give me $1,800, you get a blessing. So the man was not a complete dummy, right? So he says, I don't understand. I'm in synagogue every holiday, and the Kohanim get up in front of the synagogue and they give us all blessings. And we don't have to give them any money. So he says, did you ever look at the Kohanim when they go up on the stage to give a blessing? Did you ever notice that they're not wearing shoes? Now you know why. As a Kohen, I find this to be a very significant, John. A very significant. I don't find this funny at all. But in this week's Torah portion, we have the blessing Birchas Kohanim, the blessings that the Kohanim say, and which whenever they bless a congregation, which, by the way, in Israel is done every single day. In diaspora, it's not supposed to be done. We do it on holidays, on the major holidays, the only time that we do it. And in fact, one of the great losses that we had over Shavuos was that we did not receive the priestly blessing. It's a very significant blessing. It's very important. That's why we try and get everyone that's in the building to come into the room for the priestly blessing. And the Kohanim also get blessed by the blessing. How do the Kohanim get blessed? Because God says, "Ko sevarechu es bnei Yisrael." So in this manner should you bless the Jewish people. God tells the Kohanim. And then God says, "Va'ani avarachem." When you bless the Jewish people, at the end of it, it says what the blessings are for the Kohanim to say. It says, "Va'ani avarachem," and I will bless those, the Kohanim, who bless the Jewish people. So for a Kohen to get his blessing, he needs to bless the Jewish people. For the Jewish people to get the blessing, the Kohanim also needs to bless. So that's the way it works. Unfortunately, we missed it. But the blessing, as you may be familiar with, which we, by the way, a Kohen can give at any time. And very often that's why you find by a bris, we call up a Kohen to say the priestly blessing. By a wedding, we call up a Kohen to say the priestly blessing, because we can all use more blessings, but we're going to hopefully appreciate the significance of this blessing a little bit more. In that there are 3 verses which you can look at in the portion tonight, tomorrow, in Parshas Naso, that are the actual words that the Kohanim say. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and watch over you. And Rashi explains that refers to money, mammon. That God should bestow us with the blessing of money, of livelihood, in abundance, in great, great abundance. V'yishmerecha, and he should protect it. Because people can maybe give us money, but they can't guarantee that the money is going to last or is going to stick by us. We can always lose money. But God is the one who can always protect it. And then we say, Yara Hashem panav elecha v'chuneka, that may God shine his countenance upon us. That may God's presence be with us. May we have charisma in front of other people and find favor in other people. And then we say, Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasim l'cha shalom. May the Almighty be forgiving and place peace upon us. That God should be forgiving. And in fact, I don't know about you, but it's very clear to me. I have no doubt whatsoever. God is extremely forgiving to me. And I happen to know he's very forgiving to every single one of us. But we ask God to be as forgiving as possible. And when we bless the Kohanim bless the Jewish people, this blessing comes upon the Jews. I think it was 1961, in Crown Heights, they used to make something called a Pegisha. A Pegisha means an encounter. Now they use the word Shabbaton because it's done over Shabbos, but it was the same thing. It was an encounter where a group of people would come to Crown Heights for Shabbos. It's a very dangerous thing to do. And you're coming right into the center, into the hub of these strange Chabad people. And you experience Shabbos, and you would have a series of lecturers who would lecture and give and share different teachings. So they once had a group of students that actually came from Philadelphia. A group from Philadelphia came, and they came to Crown Heights for Shabbos. And before Shabbos, sometimes they would have the unique privilege of all coming into the Rebbe's office and having a private audience, which would last usually for just a couple of minutes. Or maybe it was Thursday night, because Thursday night the Rebbe would meet people. I'm not sure exactly when it was. It was probably Thursday night. But they would come into the Rebbe's office, and it would be a 1 to 2 minute thing where everyone would come in, the Rebbe would share a few words with them, and they would leave. One individual in this particular group asked if he can stay to speak to the Rebbe about something private. And he did. And he stayed in the Rebbe's office for an unusually long time. It's very rare that someone would stay in the Rebbe's office for such a long time, unless they were a special person. He was a student. Obviously, every person is special, but you understand if there are certain matters that the Rebbe had to speak to them about at length, whether it was a general from the Israeli army, or it was a politician, or a rabbi who's led a large community, or whatever it may be. So this guy stays in. He stayed in for an hour and a half. He came out, and they asked him what happened. There was a long line of people waiting, and what happens? Everyone else gets delayed, which was common. No one controlled the Rebbe's schedule. The Rebbe determined how long he spent with someone. So he said that he told the Rebbe that he's a Kohen. and he's dating a non-Jewish girl. And he's in love with her and he's planning on getting married. So he said, look, she's working on converting. So, God willing, she's going to convert, so she'll be Jewish. But he knew that a Kohen is not allowed to marry a convert. So he didn't know what to, he's speaking to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe tried to convince him with this, with that, with everything. The Rebbe tried to convince him that it's not the right thing for him. It's not the right thing for his soul. Obviously, she's not his soulmate, whatever it was. End result, the Rebbe didn't convince him. So then the Rebbe told him, the Rebbe turned it, if you were ever in the Rebbe's office, which you can visit when you go to Crown Heights next time, and it's to me a very, very special place, one of the most special spaces in the world for me. So in the Rebbe's room, most of the walls, 3 of the walls are covered with Svarim, with the Jewish books, which are all there and preserved. They're blocked now by glass. So the Rebbe pointed to all of the books in the room. And the Rebbe said that, what they say about me, that I know all of these books by heart. And by the way, it happens to be true. The Rebbe had a photographic memory, so whatever the Rebbe read, the Rebbe knew. The Rebbe had an unheard of amount of information in his head. And he said, they say that I know all of these books by heart. And I still do not have the ability to turn down the opportunity that you have to turn down, because you have something that I don't have. You were given the gift of being a Kohen, which I don't have the gift of being. That was the last thing the Rebbe left him with. He left the Rebbe's room and he actually broke up with the girl. So we see that a Kohen who really is just born into it, but he's given a position from God, which is a very powerful position. And the Zohar refers to a Kohen, when he refers to the spirit of a Kohen, he refers to a Kohen as an Ish Chesed, a man of kindness. A Kohen is supposed to represent kindness, and that's because the Kohen's job was to serve the Jewish people. The Kohen were not given a piece of land in Israel. Their job was to serve in the temple, and they were given certain gifts from the Jewish people's crops to support them. So they were called Ish Chesed because they were supposed to express Chesed, kindness. And this is very significant because when a person acts kind, for example, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, when a person gives tzedakah, that means they do an act of kindness to another person. Then when Hashem sees that we act with kindness, that generates by Hashem a motivation, if you will, or an inspiration to act with kindness to us. Now, here's the thing, as you may know, on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem decides how many blessings every one of us is going to get for the year. It's decided on Rosh Hashanah. And Hashem puts it into a storage room called the Weinstein room. Weinstein from Newtown room. Or whatever, however it's titled. It's probably a little bit more specific and probably using the first names. And it's there. However, blessings in heaven don't help me. I don't know about you, but if my money was in heaven, it really wouldn't do too much for me. But that's where it is. And then it's there and available. Now we just have to find a way to make it flow from its source of blessing down to us, which is why we call it a bracha, a blessing, because a bracha is in the Hebrew is the same root as the word, which means a pool, because we have a pool of blessing, but now we have to bring it down from that pool. And sometimes there are things that are blocking the channel, so to speak. Of course, I'm talking in a physical sense, but I mean it spiritually, the channel for these blessings to flow down to us. That's why the Rebbe would tell certain people, the Rebbe was able to see such things, would tell people to do a particular mitzvah, because he was able to see that would open up the channel for them. But whenever we do an act of kindness, that is a general thing which opens up channels. And that's the reason why a Kohen in particular, when he gave a blessing, because he represented kindness, he had the ability, which God bestowed upon the Kohen, of course. It's a God-given ability. It's not a man-made ability. But he has the ability through saying a blessing to, because he's a man of kindness, to create that there should be an inspiration of kindness from above and that the blessings of this person should start flowing down below. That's why the Kohanim in particular give the blessing. And that's the reason why when a Kohen gives the blessing, he has to give the blessing, it says, right? Asher Kedushanu b'Kedushasei shel Aaron, you sanctified us with the Kedusha, with the holiness of Aaron, v'tzivanu, and you commanded us, the Kohanim say this blessing, Levarech es amo Yisrael, to bless his people, the Jewish people, bi'ahava, with love. We don't have any other blessing like that. The Kohen has to say that I'm blessing the Jewish people with love. That means he has to have love in his heart for the Jewish people, because he has to have that feeling of kindness when he's giving the blessing. And that's what opens up the channel for the blessings to flow. There's a well-known story, which I'm not going to repeat. It's a little bit of a lengthy story, but there's a story about two very poor tailors who went into a partnership together, and they started to do very well together. And the end result was that there was a Jew that needed to be redeemed from prison. And both of them had just finished a major deal for the parts, and they made 300 rubles together, which they split 150. And they needed 150 rubles to redeem this guy, this Jew. So the one tailor told the other, let's split 75-75. We'll go in halfway each, and let's redeem the Jew. So the other guy said, no way. I was a beggar my whole life. I finally made some money. They were planning on going home now and living like decent people. And now I'm going to give away half my money. You crazy? So I said, okay, you don't want to. He took all of his money and he gave it to redeem this Jew. And he lived in poverty the rest of his life. But something happened. Every time someone asked this pauper for a blessing, his blessing was fulfilled. Every time someone asked for a blessing, he gave the person a blessing was fulfilled. The Baal Shem Tov heard about him and asked him to and had someone bring him, this man to him. And he asked him about his whole life to find out what the trick was, what caused that his blessings should be fulfilled. And he found out that it was this. And then he stayed by the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov taught him, started teaching him Torah, and turned him into a big scholar who knew many of the great secrets of the Torah as a student of the Baal Shem Tov. But the point is that a man who does an act of kindness, someone who's kind, who can embrace another person in a loving manner, they have the ability to bestow blessings on other people. And the ones who are dedicated for that are the Kohanim. But it doesn't mean that we can do it. Every one of us can act as a Kohen at different times, even though Hashem designated the Kohanim to do this. This is the great significance of the blessings of the Kohanim that we're going to read about, whether we're going to be at home or in shul tomorrow. We're going to hopefully everyone's going to read about it. How do we embrace another person, every person with love? How is it possible to? Right? Some people have real issues. Some people are problematic people. Some people are, cause us a lot of headaches. Is it really possible to embrace everyone with love? Even the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael, love your fellow as yourself, it's questioned by some of the great prominent commentaries about whether that's actually achievable. It's actually questioned. We don't side with that opinion. We side with the opinion that it's absolutely achievable, although it's a lifelong work. But it's possible only in one way. The only way it's possible is if we don't value people in the classic way. The classic way is we're born into the world. We start to grow up and develop ourselves, and we want to justify our existence, because what justifies my existence in this world? I don't know. I'm just another guy, right? So I start doing things and developing things to justify my existence. One thing is something I can hang on the wall so anyone that comes into my office can see I'm certified by somebody somewhere. So I got a diploma for something. For maybe it's I own something that's very big and large and prestigious, so people respect me for that. Maybe it's a talent I have and I exercise and work on so that people can appreciate me, and now I justify my existence. All of these things are not real value. They do not give us real value. They're value that we use to justify our existence because we don't appreciate fully our true inherent fundamental value. And that's why if someone were to ask you, what would happen if you and your gifts, this is a theoretical question, of course. What would happen if someone and their gifts wouldn't be here anymore? They'd be gone. Is the world going to miss them? 1 out of 7 billion people gone. You're so unique. You're so unbelievable. I mean, there are some very rare people who are so unbelievable that they're unique of their own, and there's no one that's similar to them. So there'll be another rabbi. Okay, he'll be better this way, different that way, whatever. But it's just not a big deal. the only thing that gives us true inherent value is the fact that Hashem put me in this world, and Hashem gives me life every moment, because Hashem is saying that he needs me and he needs you here right now for a mission. That is the inherent value that every single one of us has. And this is true for every single human being. And that's the reason why anytime someone violates this inherent value in another person, it's extremely problematic. It's extremely problematic. And that's the reason why, in order for us to make this world a healthier place, we need to first appreciate our inherent value, and then we love others like we love ourselves, because we see others the way we see ourselves. So we stop judging, which is natural for every single one of us. We stop judging people for their external features or their external mannerisms or even their beliefs, which are still an external part of the inherent part of a person. And we can still, even though we differ greatly with a person in any different way, shape, or form, we can still embrace that person from their essential place. One of the greatest pleasures I have in life, there are different forms of pleasure. There's a form of pleasure like, as I always say, like eating ice cream. That's a form of pleasure. There's sometimes I listen to music. I like music a lot. Music can move me very deeply. That's a much deeper pleasure for me than ice cream. Much deeper. Another deep pleasure that I have is when I meet someone who when I meet them from their external features, because unfortunately I'm very imperfect and I do make an assessment of them. I'm not sure that that's a wrong thing to do, but I make an assessment of them from the way they appear and the way they talk and the way they, their mannerisms and everything. And then either they are very open people, or with time and maybe days and months, I get to know them much more deeply. And I begin to discover the beauty of this person, the uniqueness of this person. And I love the contrast. That gives me appreciation. The contrast gives me appreciation. That there's a person who on one hand, you look at them, and then I had a very prominent rabbi visited here. And I spent some time with him. And he did something very unusual. I have no idea why, but I think he's an open person. He shared some very personal things with me. He's older than me. He's someone I look up to. And he's older than me. And he shared some very personal things with me. And it was just unbelievable to hear what he was sharing with me. It was so special. It was so, I have to tell you, it was so meaningful to me. Because I was able to see, I saw him as I knew him, and I respected him, but my respect for him was still on an external level. It wasn't, I didn't know him. I knew his achievements as a rabbi, but that's very different than the person. Now I know parts of this person. It was so real. It was so beautiful. It was so enriching. And I'm sharing this because of all of the craziness. I don't have any other word to describe. And I'm not going to get into the greater details because I want to stay on safe turf here. But the craziness that's going on in our country now, which is completely crazy. It's completely crazy. It's very simple. When a police officer violates the inherent value of a human being, even though the human being is on drugs, and even though this human being has been sat in prison 5 times, etc., but this person still inherently has value. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't imprison this person if it calls for it. It doesn't mean we shouldn't respond to this person, but to violate the person's inherent value by killing them unjustly is a terrible thing. And when someone wants to protest that, and the way they protest that is by violating the inherent value of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of other people by either hitting people or damaging their property is not solving the problem, it's becoming a part of the problem. It is becoming a part of the problem. I even question, and now I'm going to go into a little bit, I'm going on a slight fringe. I even question, I'm just going to leave it at questioning. I haven't resolved in my mind because I haven't debated it with someone to work it out. But I even question whether peaceful demonstrations at this point are a just thing to do because they make room for all of the violent demonstrations. I'm just saying, and whether I'm right, I see John, I see you shaking your head. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm right, you're saying. I don't know what you're saying, but maybe I'm wrong. But I'm just saying that thought process, the thought process of the fact that when we violate other people's inherent value, we are destroying the world. And one wrong, right, two wrongs don't make a right. There is no justification for what is going on. And we have a responsibility, and it's not we, unfortunately, we don't have the power to, but we have a responsibility as a society to protect the inherent rights of people. That is a responsibility we have as a society, otherwise we are becoming a part of the problem. And that's why the Torah, I'll say this, which is definitely not socially acceptable. But it's very clear from the Torah. The Torah speaks about Kohanim. God gave Kohanim the ability to bless everyone. He didn't give everyone the ability to bless. That's not equality. We don't believe in equality. We don't pursue making sure that everyone is equal. What we want to pursue is that every individual lives up to their potential. We don't need repeated people. God made us, every single one of us, unique, just like snowflakes. Every one of us is unique. We have to appreciate our differences. That is the greatness. But we can only do that when we truly value the inherent value of every single person. That's the only way we can do that. There's a fantastic, there was a doctor, Ernst Janning, a German doctor. 1935, he sent he had a Jewish, actually, I think he was a judge. And he condemned an innocent Jewish doctor to death in 1935. He was held on trial at the Nuremberg trials. And he said, his excuse, as there was many of them, that he said, I never knew that Hitler was going to turn this into a murder machine in 1935. And he said, those people, those millions of people, I never knew it would come to that. You must believe me. He was pleading. He ended up getting a life sentence, which was being nice to him. And the judge who was judging him at the Nuremberg trial said, you know when it came to that? You know when Hitler came to murdering millions and millions? The first time you sentenced an innocent man to death. That's when it began. Every time we violate, and I want to say this, that every one of us has to give serious thought to this. Because, look, we all meet people who are very different than us. I'm not talking about fellow Jews. I'm talking about, Gentiles who are sometimes very different than us culturally. Maybe they have a very big accent. Maybe they only speak a different language. Whatever it is, and whatever our upbringing is, and whatever our stigmas are for with those people, which is that we all have that. If we're honest, if we're going to be honest, which people are having a hard time doing nowadays. Right? But what we need to make sure of is that we are aware of the fact that when I see this person, I have a whole bunch of filters on. I cannot see them clearly. That awareness permits us to at least try and break a little rip in all of our stigmas and see. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be more wary when we meet one person over another. Maybe we should. I'm not talking about that. But I am talking about the fact to keep our minds open and to know that we can make discoveries and we can know that every single person, even if they are, even if they have dangerous behavior, and they may never get in touch with their divine self, but they still do have a divine self. We can't just do anything to them. This is the reason why I always say, people get into a heated moment. They say, so, carpet bomb, just drop a bomb on all of them, kill them all out. That's not a Jewish way. That is simply not a Jewish way. I know a lot of Jews say that. A lot of Jews, I know a lot, but some Jews, they even look like me, will say that. That doesn't change it one bit. And I would say that the Rebbe stood out uniquely in this way. Not only did the Rebbe teach us that every single human being, it's not like this disparaging, he's a guy. Every single human being was put here by God. And we even have a duty to a non-Jew to teach them what their mission is, as the Torah teaches us of the 7 Noahide laws. This is the only way we have a civil society. When we buy into all different types of slogans and propagandas and different things that make us feel like we're making a difference, but we are trying to change other people instead of actually changing ourselves to be more accepting. And the first thing we have to look at is what I'm doing right now in response to what happened, the exact same thing that they did on the other side, then I'm part of the problem. That is not a solution. Now, of course, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I just want to talk about it with passion because I feel that I for many years, and I still do, I still have fear talking about certain things because they are on the edge. And I know some people will come back to me and say, Rabbi, how dare you say that? But I also am reaching a point where I feel it needs to be said. And it needs to be said boldly and with confidence. And I hope that if anyone doesn't have as much confidence as I'm admitting, and I hope I am admitting that, then I hope that we all have the confidence to speak what we know to be true. It's not controversial. It's not, to some people will say it's controversial. Some people will say it's politics. This is the Torah way of life. This isn't politics. I'm talking about how we relate to a fellow human being. And what we need to do is know every one of us has filters. Every one of us has stigmas. Every one of us has biases. We have to be aware of that. We have to always be aware of the inherent divine value in every single person. We have to deal with every person appropriately. People cannot get away with doing dangerous things to other people or stealing from other people without a question. And the two can work hand in hand. And that's how we make the world a much better place. Every policeman needs to know the rights of every civilian, which I think most police do. And every civilian needs to know the rights of every other civilian. We need to know our responsibilities and our fellow citizens' rights. You want rights? Think about someone else's rights. You want responsibilities? Think about your own responsibilities. If you have that turned around, you got it backwards. You're messing up our world. If you're speaking about what someone else needs to do and what you have the rights for, you got it backwards. It's not going to help. So l'chaim, everyone, that we should continue to instill the values of the Torah in ourselves. And we should do that with pride. I'm speaking to myself right now. We should do that with pride and without fear, and not politically, and not getting into social agendas, but to know how we need to be as Jews, because this is confusing for us as Jews very often as well. And in this way, we will have together a beautiful world. And I pray, listen, Hashem does tell us, the Talmud does tell us that before Mashiach comes, there's going to be chaos. And I know I keep on saying this every week. And some rabbis are very concerned that rabbis are speaking about Mashiach because they're concerned that other people, that if Mashiach doesn't come, and he clearly hasn't yet, then the Jews are going to be disappointed. And I say there was a big article in a very prominent Jewish paper last week, I think it was. I didn't even read through most of it because I didn't want to, to even hear this guy's the whole rant. But I want to say that very often we need to put ourselves out there and tell Hashem what we actually want. And maybe we're going to be disappointed. Mashiach has not yet come. I surely am. And it surely challenges me on the faith level. But I say again this Shabbos, I tell Hashem, we are standing together as a community of Jews. And we are waiting for Mashiach. And we will be disappointed if Mashiach doesn't come this Shabbos or before this Shabbos. And that will challenge us by saying, well, is he really going to come? And Hashem, that's on you. Bring Mashiach now. L'chaim, l'chaim.
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 Okay. You are all officially unmuted. You can refute everything I just said.
Have a good Shabbos, everyone.
Have a
I'm
wonderful
Rabbi, you can,
Shabbos.
Rabbi, you can do more of that.
As is appropriate, and as I feel.
More of that.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos, Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Hello, Gershmans.
Hello. Shabbos, good Shabbos.
Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos.
All the best.
Happy birthday to our beautiful Rebbe.
Where's the
Oh,
Rosie?
yes, yes,
I
thank you, Mila. I will share that. I will share that message.
I just got such a such a nice challah. Where's this birthday girl?
We wanna
Happy birthday to Rosie.
We want to see
Yeah,
her.
Thank you.
Yes.
Happy birthday to Rosichka.
Yes, happy birthday to her. I will convey all of
Can she
the.
come to bless us?
Mazel tov, Rabbi.
Can she come to bless us?
Thank you. Baruch Hashem.
Shabbos.
We should all celebrate many, many more birthdays together.
Amen, amen.
Yeah, in good health.
Yes, amen.
Make sure bake this challah for me every Shabbos. I mean, it's a good wish.
That was a good blessing to yourself.
Yeah.
We'll see if it gets fulfilled. You're not a Kohen. That's the problem.
That's why you come in. That's why you come in to give me that blessing.
I'm not going to give you the blessing
$1,800
because I'm not going to give it to you, Beryl, because I'm going to have to deliver it every week.
Thank you.
Earl could be at the top of the list
Shabbat
if he
shalom.
delivers.
Good Shabbos, everybody. Good Shabbos.
I
Thank
tell you.
you, Rebbe.
Yeah. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Everyone have an inspired Shabbos.
You
You
too.
too.
In good health. Thank you. Thank you, Voka.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos,
It's going to be quiet and peaceful.
I like the orange coordination tonight.
Have a good Shabbos.
Looking forward to school tomorrow.
What's that?
Looking forward to resumption of services.
Very good. Very good.
Looking forward to resumption of service.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful.
guys.
Yeah.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Good
Shabbos,
Shabbos.
Shabbos, everybody.
Rabbi.
Good Shabbos. Good
Rebbe,
Shabbos.
see you
And Paul,
soon.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
There
Good
you go.
Shabbos.
Shabbos, everybody.
Oh, there they go. Hi, Karen. Hi, Harris. There you go. Good Shabbos, guys.
Good Shabbos. I'm trying to
Good
hear
Shabbos,
you.
Tanya. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos to Sophia Tamarkin.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, Karen. Good Shabbos, Karen.
Shabbat shalom, one and all.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
We'll see you Sunday, Rabbi.
That's a great question. I'll send out an email to notify you. Over Shabbos, I plan on processing exactly how to proceed forward. I'm
Yes.
getting believe it or not, I'm very good on undertaking a lot, and then it catches up with me. So with 9 kids,
Well, on Shabbos. No work on Shabbos.
no worries, but no, I'm going to try and figure out exactly how much I can carry. I have some other things going on now, and the shuls is opening up a little bit, so that's taking some time as well. Yeah, but we'll figure it out, and we'll stay in touch. Don't worry.
Rabbi.
Okay.
I am Rabbi L'chaim.
L'chaim Rabbi Yamin.
I am.
Enjoy the ocean for us.
Yeah, I know.
I'll take a mikvah right after Shabbat for you.
There you go.
There you
You
go.
can-
That's
There
nice.
you go.
jealous.
Yeah,
Great idea.
All right.
very good, very good. Okay, good Shabbos, everyone.
Good
Good Shabbos.
We'll see you
Have a
next
great
week. in
Shabbos
Hashem.
in the shul.
Yes,
It's amazing. And let us know how's everything going there.
Yeah, God willing, it'll go well.